Alright class, with this assignment we're going to look at how to add a handle into a revolve form. You can either do that on a cup or a pitcher. That's what we're going to be looking at. So got kind of a cup here. I wanted to see about how to go in and add a handle. One of the really nice tools that allows you to do that is called bridge, but it does require kind of three elements. One is, are basically two openings, okay, and then a path for it to follow. Well, I've got the path here, you can see in blue on a sketch, just this handle sketch here that I drew orthographically and kind of eyeball where it should be, where I want it. When I did this initial revolve, I got kind of the right cross sections there, but I don't have like a little plane right there to kind of pick and delete, and that will create the open hole that I can use for this. So what I'm going to do is go back in and regenerate the revolve and get it set up properly, and then we'll walk through the steps real quick how to do it. So let me toggle that off, turn back on the revolve cross section, and then I will go in and create the revolve again. So pick that and then go down and pick the axis, which you can do right there. Okay. Now, whenever you do any of these tools in like extrude, revolve, sweep, and loft, it basically approximate what's there because of the T-spline technology. And as you can see, we're not quite following it, the cross section that's there, and definitely some of these areas way off. So what you do is you start increasing the number of spacings here. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump to what I know is pretty close. Let me show you what happens. So it'll jump all over the place. Sometimes it gets closer. So it actually looks pretty good, but it's got this weird bump in the middle now. Well, it ends up going through this and having done it a couple times, I know 21 is pretty close to what I want. Okay, so it may take a fair amount. Now, a lot that adds complexity to this is simply this flat bottom with the sharp edges there with it. Curvature does a pretty good job of really kind of approximating the form. You can try uniform. It'll evenly space everything out, but as you can see, it doesn't quite match up what's there. So we'll stick back with curvature. Okay. Now, on the number of faces around the circumference of this, the trick with this is to actually do an odd number. Let me show you why. So let me go in and choose 13. It ends up, that's kind of the start of this revolve, goes around and comes back around and ends up there. Doing 13 will leave us a good patch right there, our face, that we can pick and delete and then use that for the bridge tool. Okay, if you want something smaller or bigger, you can just go in and pick a different 11, see what that looks like. Okay, so that's 11. It gets a little bit bigger areas with each of those. Okay, so it really, once again, it's more about how wide you want your handle at this point. Okay, all right, so we'll stick with 13 on this. Hit go. Now we've got our basic revolve shape. So what we're going to do is come in and pick the face right there, which is where this curve kind of is tangent to, and hit delete. And that makes this opening there. Go down and do the same one at the bottom. Pick that, hit delete. Now, before you go in and do this revolve, you may want to go in and modify these openings a little bit. Let's do this bottom one for sure. It's very tiny as far as the size there. So I will double click on to select around the edge and do my modify tool. Okay, do a little non-proportional scaling to enlarge it vertically. Looks good. Maybe pull it up a little bit so it's back centered kind of on my curve that you see there. And you can do some further tweaks like twisting and so forth. And let me do a little bit more. Oops, I twisted it the wrong way. I'm going to grab the non-proportional scaling. There we go. Okay, so that one's pretty good. I'll leave the top one as is right now. Okay, hit OK to that. Now we'll go and use the bridge tool. So it's right here in the second set. Choose that. So basically it's got three inputs. Here's side one, and so you basically double click to pick the loop there. Click on the next arrow, double click to select side two. Make sure we get the actual edge. Good. And if you want to, you can go ahead and hit preview. Now, this is, I think it's not building properly. I don't know if it's maybe misselect something here. Let's try this top one again. There we go. Yeah. So you can see it's going to go ahead and build something. It's going to be flat between these two that we're going to do at this point, which is not quite what we want. So instead, we want to have it use this follow curve. Okay, click on that. Now you can see we're starting to take the shape. So the next thing is how smooth you want this. Right there, the number of faces along this will control that. 6 is kind of a good number, gives you enough subdivisions through there, it follows it pretty well. If by chance your curve ends up on the opposite side like that, that's what the flip curve will do for you. Okay. Curve rotation will go off, and let me see if I can get this to kind of show up a little bit. 45. You know, in essence, if you want this to kind of twist around the curve or twist off the curve, you could do something like that to create an interesting shape. Let's go back to 0 on that part. And then finally we got twist, if we can twist it down as it goes through it. Now, the one issue you may run into is these arrows. This kind of tells you how this opening is aligned. If you flip it, notice what happens then, in this case, that it actually twists. So if you ever run into a situation where it's twisting, using this ability to flip these two arrows may help end up putting the two side openings there aligned properly so that it will actually go through and build the bridge correctly. Alright, I got everything that looks good. Hit OK, and there we got. Nice handle there. Now keep in mind, this may not just be step 1. I may then want to go in and start further sculpting this because, you know, maybe it came out a little too thin on this. So a good rule of thumb, let's do this, is to come in and double click on these cross sections, go and choose edit form. Okay, and once again do some non-proportional scaling maybe, or proportional scaling. So let's see if I can get to this. I want to get around here and thicken it up a little bit. So I'll grab that scale indicator. There we go. And as always with the edit form tool, we can just double click on another section real quickly, change it. Now in this case, because this is kind of vertical, yeah, we can actually use this one. We'll go with that one to increase the thickness there, and jump down to this one. Okay, now changing this to a local coordinate system may help align how we want to do this scaling and so forth a little bit better. So, and that one, did I pick the right thing? Yep. Let's go back to, let's see. It's a little different from what I expected there, so on that one. That's working, but for some reason the scaling outwards, I'm a little surprised it's not pulling it out better to do it. So actually I'll go back to world and see if it does anything differently on this. A little bit, but it's kind of a twisted angle. So, and then I'll go through and do this one real quick. There we go. You can see you get some things like that. And also you can, as always, you can go in and rotate these around a little bit. Okay, if you want to kind of help with the layout of this. And you know, it's always kind of, if you want to do something a little interesting like that, actually let me go back in and double click on that one. Okay, and further kind of play with this, so you can easily twist the handle and add some more interesting form changes with it, doing something like that. Okay, so that's kind of one of the basic ways to go through and create a handle based off of two openings and a revolve, and then drawing a path for it to follow to create something like this. Okay,